Hey everybody, welcome back to the Gathigan Automotive channel. Today we are changing the struts on an 06 Hyundai Tiburon, I believe is the way you pronounce that. So let's grab some tools and dive right into it. Okay, here we go. These struts, it's your strut assembly, it's your coil spring, your strut itself, all that good stuff. These are completely blown out. You can push down on the car and it'll bounce for a couple of hours. Pretty straightforward, most struts are this way. We are changing the strut itself. We will be reusing the springs and the upper mounts and all that, and we'll go through that. But to start with, we have a wheel speed sensor bracket here. You can see that's a little 10 mil bolt, pull that out. We have a 12 millimeter bolt down here holding a brake hose bracket. We are then gonna remove the sway bar nut that holds it to the strut, the two cross bolts that hold it to the spindle. Go up top, pop it out, there we go. So, start with our brackets. Okay, and what I noticed is this upper bolt has been replaced by somebody. It's not the factory bolt, not that it doesn't work and do its job, it's just not the factory. Not a big deal. And we get our brake hose bracket off. And drop it, because that's what we do 90% of the time. Okay, brackets off. Now we'll work on getting the sway bar link off. And I'll kind of show you a trick for these because they can be a real pain, especially if they have any rust. You'll loosen the nut and then you'll just spin. You'll spin forever because it's actually spinning the shaft inside of the sway bar end or the link end. The nut's spinning the shaft. So if you take a pry bar, you can hook it somewhere and push the sway bar link into the strut, push it in, and then loosen the nut. That'll hold it and let you take it out. We were gonna do that. I can show you. Here, right here, the top portion of the screen, there's a rubber body plug. We're gonna take that out, set it to the side, because I wanna put my pry bar in there to give me a leverage point. We'll do, come in here with the pry bar, around there. And as you can see, we have some pressure against the sway bar link. Now that's gonna make taking it out much simpler. This car is kind of a pain because the sway bars are actually, the links are actually pointed the other way. Normally they're facing out toward you, a little easier to get to. These ones are not. I think to make this easier for video's sake, get this turned a little bit, you guys can maybe see a little more. So the nut's right behind us, a 14 mil wrench to get this loose. Start by just trying to break it loose, just like that. And we'll spin her as much as it'll let us. And then right there, the shaft is spinning. So now we do the pry bar trick. Some leverage. Just push it in, is all you gotta do. Okay, here we go. Nut off. Just pull this out of here. Wait, I'm gonna turn the wheel a little. Okay, just let that hang out of the way. There we go. So we'll buzz the two cross bolts through. Zoom me out a little bit. There we go. Normally it's a 19 for the nut, but like I said, this one has a non-factory bolt in it. So we'll see what size that is. Get the 19 out. It's a 19 on the nut and then a 17 for the head of the bolt to hold it. Okay. Definitely not the factory fastener. So, it's actually a camber bolt. I can show you guys that. If you look here close to the head, you rotate it, you see it's got a side that's oblong. It's actually an alignment spec that can be adjusted. Now from the factory, these bolts are not cambered like this, or cammed like this, I should say. This one is, obviously they have some type of an alignment issue that they replaced this bolt so then they can now adjust the out and in portion of the wheel. So this vehicle will get in alignment when it's done. We'll go from there. Last bolt out. Okay, now we'll just get the, there we go. Now it's completely separated. The only thing left, we'll go up top. We have some 14mm nuts to pop off. That strut will be coming out of there. Okay, we come up top. We have the 3 fasteners that hold the strut to the strut tower in the car. Leave this on. If this is not here, there is a nut underneath. Do not take that nut off. That is very dangerous. That's something we're gonna do in the spring compressor. So we'll get our 3 mounting nuts off. Last one. I'm just gonna loosen so we can reach down and hold the strut while we take it off so it doesn't fall out of the car. Okay, just grab a hold of the strut, reach up, spin that last nut off. Now she's free. Just be gentle. You don't want to break any wires or cut any hoses taking her out. And that's it. That's how you get a strut out of an 06 Hyundai Tiburon. Now, let's go get the strut itself changed out. Okay, we got the strut in the compressor. Something that I like to do. Now, I know not everyone's gonna have access to a spring compressor like this. Just know, if you're doing struts yourself and you're using the rental spring compressors that are like the all threaded bolts with some clamps on them, they're very dangerous. This is a very dangerous job, especially if you don't have the right tooling. I mean, if one of these were to come apart the wrong way and you were in the way of it, you're gonna get seriously injured. So be mindful of that. If you don't have the equipment, my recommendation is do not do it. Take it to somebody who does. Something I like to do, I've already got it in here. This isn't too crazy. You get it on the prongs, you get it level, you start compressing by twisting a handle on the top. What I like to do is mark the strut pieces. So I can show you here. That way I know what the front is. You can kind of rotate things when the strut's together, but it's a kind of a pain. So here's our strut. If we come down here, here's the ear, the flange that actually the spindle goes through. So that I'm gonna say is front. We're just gonna take a marker and just mark each individual piece what the front is. The spring, we don't really need to. The spring can really only go in one way. There's even this little rubber diaphragm down, or this rubber mount pad that it sits on. We'll mark that too. It just makes installation a little bit easier if you just have everything lined up. If you just have everything lined up right off the bat. Okay, so on top of the strut, there is this rubber plug. It's just a cap, it just seals water from the nut. That is a 17mm. Okay, so the nut that holds it all together is a 17. What you do is you compress the crap out of this thing, making sure all my ears are centered, not offset to where it's gonna go flinging this thing out the side. Compress the heck out of it, much as I feel safe doing. And we'll buzz that nut off. Just like that. Now remember, while this spring is compressed, there is a lot of potential energy being stored. Someone should have told you, hold on to that because the strut fall out the bottom. Just be very careful. This thing is like a loaded bomb right now, just sitting here with this spring compressed. Here's our strut. So a strut itself is really just the shock portion. A strut assembly is when it has the upper plates, the springs, all that. We're gonna reuse this. Reuse this little rubber bumper. It's like a stop, a jounce bumper. And the very bottom has this kind of chintzy little rubber pad just to keep the spring from rubbing on the metal. We'll go grab our, as you can see, that strut does nothing anymore but add extra weight to the vehicle. Here's our new strut. Comes with a new nut. Take that off, set it to where it's easy to get to. Grab our rubber jounce bumper, tapered direction down. So it goes something similar to that, all the way down. Our boot, stick that over the top. Forget our rubber mount. They're directional. You'll see it'll sit in there a certain way. And now we just feed it up through the bottom. Okay, we get that fed in there. Grab our upper plate. Find my mark. That in there. Grab the new nut and start it on the threads. Okay. So now we tighten up that nut till she's TIT tight. This baby's ready to go back in the car. Make sure everything's lined up. Make sure that spring is sitting in the bottom mount straight the way that it's supposed to. The new nut on this is bigger. It looks like a 19. Now we'll just tighten it up. Just like that. You don't need to go crazy. Just tight. So now, make sure everything's still lined up. And as you see, it can rotate. There's actually a bearing in here. A lot of times what people think, when they hear kind of a rattling noise in their front end, they think it's like a sway bar link. It's actually this bearing in the upper portion of the strut that's bad. But anyways, that'll let you align that a little bit in case you're not perfectly straight. I'm sitting where I want it to be. Beautiful. Okay. Take the pressure off. There we go. And that is how you swap a strut or use a spring. Here we go. So we'll head back over to the car, get this thing thrown in there. Okay. So we got our new strut. Now we just feed it into the hole, and it's the exact reverse order of taking it out. Just feed it up in there straight, go up top, line up your bolts, line up your studs. See? Torqued to factory spec. Don't want to forget our rubber plug that goes in the top of the strut. Put that in now. Car shouldn't leave with less parts than when it came in. You can leave with new parts or different parts, but it should have the same amount. Okay. All right, let's get some things straightened out, hooked up, ready to go. Got our bottom bolt in. Get our cammed bolt in. Like I said, we'll inform the customer this car needs an alignment afterwards. But what we can do for right now, when we tighten these up, see if it's easier to show you. If you look there, right between the steering knuckle and the new strut, see the rust outline? Those are kind of some wear marks of where it used to be mounted. So what we'll do, we'll line that up as close as we can get it with our eyeballs, tighten everything up. And that'll get it pretty close to where it was set originally. And then inform the customer that she needs to be taken down, have an alignment done. 19 millimeter on the factory bolt. 17 to hold the bolt, 19 for the nut. Okay. 18 and a 15 on the aftermarket cammed bolt. Just like that. And that's that. Next, let's get our sway bar end hooked up. I think what we're gonna do, spray that down with some penetrating oil. See if that'll work any magic for us. Get that in there. A lot of times the hardest part of doing struts on a car is unhooking the sway bar link. A lot of shops, they just cut it. It's not even an option to the customer, you just cut it, because it's not worth the amount of labor it takes to wrench them out. It's cheaper to just cut it, put a new one in. But ours came out relatively easily. Tighten it as much as we can without putting pressure on it. And when it starts to spin, we'll make it lucky this time. Beautiful. Thank you for doing what you're supposed to do. Oh, TIT tight. 2 brackets and a wheel. This thing's ready to rock and roll. Oh, let us not forget your rubber body plug. Should go back in its home. There we go. Like I said, a vehicle should leave your shop with at least the same number of parts as it came in with. It can have different ones, it can have new ones, but it should never have less. You're not doing your job. Even if some of them are a huge nightmare and you know they're not worth anything, they don't do any good on there, it doesn't matter. Tight, tight, tight. Beautiful. There we go. Obviously the last step would be replacing or putting the wheel back on, torquing that. Get the alignment set. This girl's good to go. That's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, hit that like button. Go ahead and subscribe. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I don't know if people want to see more of the nuts and bolts stuff or they'd rather see more of the diagnostic stuff, which is stuff that I enjoy more. But just let me know. I'd be happy to put on here whatever I can. So, you guys have a great day.